I was born in January, so by definition, that makes me a winter baby. A true winter baby. Depths of winter. January 10th. I think that is a pretty apt characteristic of who I am, being a winter baby. I think a lot of who I am is defined by when I was born. I think I fully understand the implications of winter time. I don't necessarily seek out winter books. I feel like I have enough of that in my core. So I don't necessarily need to actively seek them out, but I do have books that make me feel like wintertime, make me feel like I've been captured by snow and cold and relentless longing for warmer times. So I've compiled some of those books to talk about today. This is what winter feels like to me. So I feel like the book that we should start with first, and a book that is definitely very pertinent to today, is Eileen by Ottessa Moshfegh. I've rolled around with the idea of doing a horoscope book association video, and this is always the number one that I feel like I could do for January. Not that this necessarily identifies with me, but I just feel like this is a really great winter book. It takes place in winter. It's about a lonely woman finding solace in other lonely people, and it's by Ottessa Moshfegh, who, if you're unfamiliar with her, she's very offbeat, funky writer, explores the nuances of weird characters, and she does it incredibly well. Eileen is also going to be made into a movie very, very soon, so I think them planning to release it around the beginning of winter is smart. This book, I don't know. I immediately associate bundling up with this book. Immediately associate turning on the heat of my car, letting my car idle as it warms up, and I'm anticipating getting into it. It's a very strange book. I think it looks into that sort of trapped feeling of being in winter, this feeling of not being able to escape where you're from and just being stuck in the confines of winter. That's what this book feels like to me, and I think it does a great job. That's winter. That's definitely winter. Next couple of books that I want to talk about are a little bit depressing, but again, I feel like that's winter. You're strong once you come out of winter, in my opinion. If there's snow, if there's barely any light, I thought they were going to get rid of daylight savings, but they obviously haven't yet, and that hurts me. When the sun sets at 4:30, I do feel a little bit sad, but you got to do what you got to do. And I think that these books encapsulate that feeling incredibly well. One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. This is all about one day in the life of Ivan Denisovich in a gulag. Don't forget that part. Don't forget that special little add-on to his life experience. This is all about the tediousness of living in a gulag. It's all about the workings of the inmates in there, how there was this regiment of going on and trying to live a bit of normalcy, but just how unidentifiable you became as an individual in the realm of that gulag. This feels like wintertime to me because you kind of lose a little bit of yourself. You shed some of that light that you had in you, and you kind of become a little bit of a shell of who you were. But it's still a strengthening experience going through winter time. When you come out of it at the end, I think you become a ready person to tackle on the remainder of the year. Wow, this is really a lot more philosophical than I intended it to be, but here we are. The next book after that, also a very exciting, happy book, is Hunger by Knut Hamsun. I read this last year, also in the throes of winter. I listened to it on audiobook, and it was one of the most successful audiobook experiences I had because I was going on walks, trying to amp up my body, amp up the excitement within me, and this book provided a flawless companion for that. This is all about a young writer and the kind of demise of his ambition, the demise of his normalcy. He has no money, and he's slowly kind of driving himself into insanity because he's so hungry. This is a really fantastic classic. I loved this book. I think, again, it's toiling with that idea of trying to be successful in an atmosphere that really bogs down on you, that makes you work to feel the satisfaction that comes so easily in these times of happiness and sunshine. I don't know, it was really a large experience. Yeah, let's work with it. They sound so depressing, these books, but in reality, I think that there's something to be said for books that kind of ground you. Okay, so after that, we're going to be talking about a book that quite literally has the word cold in the title. This is a novel that, for me, I read it when I was young. I think it's a fantastic exploration of the sadness in people and what people are capable of when that's in them. And that's In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. Cold's right in the title. That they're not messing around with that when they're talking about cold. Aside from Breakfast at Tiffany's, In Cold Blood, I think, is one of the most impactful books from Capote's collection, at least the most identifiable book. And this is all about this horrific murder that happened. I think it was like November 15th. So it's not exactly winter time, but right on that cusp in a kind of a rural Midwest town, I believe. Capote goes deep into the investigation of what caused it, why these people did this, and he gets to know, not necessarily be friends, but gets to kind of unravel the story of the people who were responsible for it. It's graphic writing, but it's incredibly arresting in the way that it presents itself to the reader, and it does make you feel like you're going through something. You're evolving after you read this novel, and you come to know the reasonings behind it. Once you do something like this, you can never retract what you've done, your actions. I think that's a great winter read. I read it when I was snuggled up in my bed, when I was, neck covers up to here. My neck is not revealed, much like this turtleneck right now. And then after that, we have a little bit more of a current novel, something that's not as deep, dark, and moving. Well, no, very moving book still. Something that I read this past year. I think it's a fantastic winter read. It has associations with the holidays, and that is Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. This takes place in a small Irish town. I don't know, I have deep associations with Irish towns and Irish people. That's a really bad Irish accent, I apologize. It's all about a small town and the people within it, and how the structures of these small towns can both bring people down but also bring people right back up, and how good people can be and the goodness in our hearts. And that, I think, is what winter can also showcase, is, you have a lot of these holidays, and it's a time for gathering. It's a time for kind of using the closeness of people to warm you up. This book does that incredibly well. It's a small little novel, but it really packs a punch. Yeah, love that book. Love it, love it, love it. No complaints, absolutely. And the last couple of books that I'm going to suggest are all nonfiction, but I can assure you that this is by the King of Winter. The King of Winter, Jon Krakauer. I have Eiger Dreams, Into the Wild, Into Thin Air. Jon Krakauer, he's my baby boy. I love him so much, and he's a great guy, I think. I'm just assuming that from his writing, the books that I've read. All of these books take place in a winter-adjacent sort of setting. You have Eiger Dreams, which is all about mountain climbing. Well, a lot of those happen in Utah, Arizona, and these other rock formations. A lot of them take place in Alaska, Switzerland. Obviously, these places have summertime as well, but the rock climbing that he's doing, a lot of it is ice climbing and places like that. Into the Wild, it's all about Christopher McCandless and his looking for just absolute, desolate, independent solace. Takes him to Alaska, where unfortunately he meets his demise in the coldest of cold territories. And then you have Into Thin Air, which is about a catastrophic Everest expedition in the 1990s. Krakauer was a part of that troupe, and he made it, obviously. He's still writing to this day. But all of those have deep winter associations just because of these cold mountains that are being climbed. And again, about perseverance, making it towards the end. Well, McCandless kind of persevered. That is what winter feels like to me. Those books are deeply winter to me. They make me feel like I'm there. I could also say that classics, a lot of those dank, dense classics feel like winter time to me because you just bundle up, you have the time to read. Let me know what winter books do it for you. I know we always have a book that makes us feel like there's a little fire right next to us, that we're warming up our hands. We have to wear a big sweater. I know that there's always one book that we're like, oh yes, oh yeah, that's winter for me. Let me know. You guys are wonderful. You're fabulous. Thank you so much for being here. Bundle up. Wear your Snuggies. I will see you in the next one. Ah.